Hey everybody, here I am in 2022 making a brand new video. Now for this video, I wanted to make something a little bit different. And when I sit around and try to think of video ideas, lately I've been really trying to think of a video that hasn't been done before, because there are a lot of great YouTubers out there, a lot of Beatle people that make Beatle related videos, and they cover a lot of ground, and I think that's fantastic. But when I make videos, I want to try to make videos that have topics that haven't really been touched upon. And this is an idea I came up with. So generally speaking, this is really directed at the newer Beatle fan, the newer Beatle record collector. And so most of us, of course, have all of the Beatles' 13 core studio albums. And what do I mean by the core studio albums? So the 13 UK albums the Beatles released, starting with Please Please Me, ending with Let It Be. Now, we all love those albums and probably own all those albums as well. But there might be the record collector who wants to try to expand their collection and pick up some albums that maybe aren't as well known, but I think are still essential. So in this video, I'm going to tell you my top 5 essential non-core studio album Beatle albums that I think are worth owning in your collection. Now, I did create a couple of rules for this list that I made here, and I didn't include any compilations. Now, what does that mean? Like, I didn't include the Beatles Red or the Blue album or Beatles One or stuff like that, because those contain songs from the core Beatles collections. I also didn't include like any of the remix albums like Let It Be Naked or Yellow Submarine Songtrack or Love. Those are great albums as well, of course, but I just didn't include those because they didn't really fit with this idea that I had going on here. And last but not least, I didn't include the Beatles anthology albums, volume 1, 2, or 3. And those are also fantastic albums, but I just don't think that they, most people know about those albums, and I wanted to try to do, some of the rarer maybe, or not rare, I shouldn't say that, but the lesser known Beatles albums that are out there that you could add to your collection. So that's generally, those are the guidelines I went with when I made this list. So I'm sure there are a lot more albums out there that you would probably add to this collection, but like I said, this is really directed at the people that want to add to their collection, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are going to be very, very familiar with some of these albums. But you might learn a little bit of something along the way, so hope you'll stick around and check out this video. Let's get right into it. The first album that I think is essential to any Beatle collection, this is an album, these are actually 2 albums, but they're from the same sessions. These are the Tony Sheridan sessions. Tony Sheridan, for those of you who don't know, was a singer and guitar player that the Beatles met in Hamburg, Germany, and he had them back him up quite a lot when they played live at the Star Club and at the Top 10 Club as well. And during their stay in Hamburg, Tony Sheridan was offered a chance to record a couple of songs, a couple of sessions with a German producer, and he invited the Beatles along to back him up again. And during those sessions, the Beatles were allowed to record 2 songs on their own without Tony Sheridan. Now, I should add that while these are official recordings, they weren't recorded in a studio. These were recorded in like an auditorium with studio equipment. So they brought along, like portable recording equipment that was professional recording equipment. So the sound is pretty good on these sessions. Now, I have 2 of these albums here because I wanted to show that these sessions have been repackaged over the years, just endless amounts of times. So you will see so many different versions of these same recordings repackaged over and over and over and over again. These are 2 of my favorites, though. This one I like simply because I think the album cover is just fantastic. I just love the yellow, and I love this photo of the Savage Young Beatles, and I like the back. It's very cool as well. But the problem with this particular album is that it doesn't include one of the 2 genuine Beatle recordings, and that is a song called Ain't She Sweet, which is probably my favorite amongst all the recordings. So that's a bit of a problem. So we'll put this one to the side, and I would recommend looking for this particular compilation. This is called Tony Sheridan, or actually The Beatles featuring Tony Sheridan, in the beginning, circa 1960, and this was released on Polydor Records. And I believe this is from 1969, but like I said, it's been released all throughout the 70s and the 80s and up until now. But it's got a cool little gatefold with some nice photos inside. And this has, in my opinion, all the songs you could want from these sessions, all the ones that include the Beatles playing with Tony Sheridan and the 2 tracks the Beatles recorded on their own, Ain't She Sweet and Cry for a Shadow. Cry for a Shadow is an instrumental that was written by George and John, and I think it's very, very cool. Sounds kind of like the Ventures meet the Shadows, and just very, very cool song. By the way, it's called Cry for a Shadow because I think it's meant to sound like the Shadows. Anyway, this is definitely an essential album that I think you should own in your Beatle collection. And this gets a lot of kind of a bad rap, I would say, just because it's been repackaged so much. And sure, it's not totally the Beatles. Just 2 songs are genuinely the Beatles. But the Beatles do back Tony Sheridan on a bunch of the songs on this album. I'm not going to get into the ones that they are backing him on, because there are a couple of discrepancies where Tony Sheridan recorded some of these songs later on after the Beatles, and they included them on here as well. But generally speaking, this is Tony Sheridan with the Beatles. So yes, definitely check this one out and pick it up. And like I said, I see this all the time in the record shops I have around where I live, and you can also find this online as well. Very, very easy to pick up, and for under $10 is what I would say. Next up, this is the bootleg among the bunch. Now, of course, the Tony Sheridan sessions as well were not supported by the Beatles, but they were released on an official label, Polydor, so this is an official release. The Decca sessions that I'm going to talk about now, these have never been really officially released on an official label. Any copy you're going to find is going to be a pirated bootleg album. But don't let that throw you off, because these are easily available, and the sound quality is studio quality. So these are, like I said, the Beatles Decca sessions, or the Decca tape, Decca audition. And for those of you who don't know, before the Beatles signed to EMI Records, they got an audition at Decca Records, and they played a bunch of songs for Decca to try to get signed to the label, but they didn't end up getting signed by Decca. But luckily, that session tape survives, and from that tape is how we have this album. And there are a bunch of songs on here, and these are all recorded in a professional recording studio. And while some of the performances may not be up to the usual Beatles standard that we're all used to, these are so interesting to listen to, because this is right before the Beatles were going to become the Beatles, that huge phenomenon that we all know. So it's interesting to hear how they sounded right before then, and you can hear in these recordings, you can hear where they're going to go and how excellent they're going to be. And besides all that, this album features a bunch of songs that you can't find anywhere else. Songs like Dreamers Do, which is a Lennon-McCartney song that Paul sings. Hello Little Girl, which is a Lennon-McCartney song also that John happens to sing. And another Lennon-McCartney song called Love of the Loved, which again Paul sings. You can only find those songs on this album. So that alone makes it essential in my opinion. But it also has other cover songs the Beatles did, songs they later record on their studio albums, songs like Money, Till There Was You. Let's see, what else is on here? Searchin', Best of Me Mucho. Bunch of cool songs that are on this album. Now, some of these songs ended up being released on the Beatles Anthology 1, but only I think maybe like 5 of these songs. So if you want all the songs, you got to pick up this particular album. Now, much like the Tony Sheridan sessions, this has also been re-released a bunch of different times on a bunch of different labels over the years. This one happens to be the one released on a label called Doxy, D-O-X-Y, and this is the one I chose. I have other versions of this in my collection, but this is the one I chose because I see this one all the time in my record shops and also online. This is a pretty easy one to pick up, and you can probably get this one for under like $25 is what I would say. But again, essential Beatles album that I think everyone should own in their collection. So check out the Beatles Decca Audition. Next up, this one might be the most controversial of all the ones I have in this list here. These are the Beatles live at the Star Club recordings in Hamburg, as the title suggests. These were recorded in 1962, right before. Well, actually, I think there's a little bit of discrepancy of exactly when these were recorded. I know these were recorded after the Beatles had already signed their EMI recording contract. So they'd already recorded Love Me Do by this point, but it's right before, it's like right after Love Me Do, and Ringo had already joined the band by this point, even though some of the liner notes in some of these compilations state that it's Pete Best. It's Ringo playing drums with them, but it's definitely at the Star Club in Hamburg. And the recording quality of these recordings it's very, very poor. It sounds like the Beatles are really, really far away and that the microphone, it's just one microphone placed at the back of a club. Now, I think the microphone, they say that the microphone was placed right in front of the stage, but to me it sounds like it's very, very far back. Now, while that is very off-putting, you can still hear that this is the Beatles, and then you can hear the different songs they're playing. So it's definitely essential to have in your collection. And on top of that, much like the Decca tapes, they do a lot of songs on here that they never did ever again, that you can only find on these compilations. And now I say these compilations because, much like the Decca tapes, these have also been re-released so many times over the years in different forms and all that kind of stuff. But these are two of the albums that I own. These are all from the same, of course, sessions, but they do have different songs on them, and you'll find that with all these compilations, that finding a complete compilation with every single recording that is available is pretty hard to do. But between these two, I would say the one I think that is the essential one to own is this particular one. Now, this happens to be a German pressing, but that doesn't matter at all because, like I said, the sound quality is just, it is what it is, and pretty much any pressing you're going to get is going to sound similar. It's hard to improve upon these recordings. But I like the way this one's packaged. It is a gatefold. It's got a bunch of information in here, some of it accurate, some of it not. It's got a cool photo on the back. And again, it's got a bunch of songs that you can't find anywhere else. Songs like Little Queenie, Falling in Love Again, Reminiscing, Talking About You, Shimmy Shake, a bunch of songs like that you probably, some of you have never even heard some of those songs before, but these are songs that you can only find on this compilation and perhaps this compilation as well. But the Beatles Hamburg tapes, Live at the Star Club, essential album to own in your collection, just for historical purposes. And again, I will put out this disclaimer. This is not an album you're going to listen to over and over and over again. You'll probably listen to it a couple of times, but it is very, very fascinating, and I highly, highly recommend it. So definitely check this out. Next up, these are two different albums, but they're from the same sessions is what I would say. So these are the Beatles at the BBC. This is Beatles at the BBC Volume 1 and the Beatles at the BBC Volume 2 Live on Air. Now, this first Beatles at the BBC album was released in 1994. This is Volume 1. And, of course, this is an official Beatles released on Apple Records. And this is a fantastic collection of songs the Beatles recorded for the BBC, as the title suggests. And it's got, much like these other albums I was just talking about, so many songs that the Beatles that the Beatles recorded that you can't find anywhere else. There's a bona fide Lennon McCartney song on here called All Be On My Way that they never ever recorded again, and it's a very cool song. You can find that on here. Songs like I Got a Woman, Too Much Monkey Business, Keep Your Hands Off My Baby, Carol, Soldier of Love, Clarabella, Crying, Waiting, Hoping. So many great songs, and they also do classic Beatles songs on here as well. Songs like A Hard Day's Night, I Want to Be Your Man, All My Love, and Things We Said Today, She's a Woman. All the classic early Beatles songs. This is essential listening for when it comes to Beatle albums. And same can be said for Volume 2. Much of the same as Volume 1, just a lot of extra songs that we have not had before. Songs like I'm Talking About You, Hippie Hippie Shake, Lend Me Your Comb, Beautiful Dreamer. Essential listening. And both of these albums are readily available. This one happens to be an original pressing from 1994, a UK pressing, and I think it sounds good. Now, the audio quality, I will say, It's not up to the standard of the Beatles studio albums in any shape or form, but it is very, very good audio quality, and it's all in mono, which is totally fine. And like I said, very, 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 very essential, and just a pleasure to listen to. So volumes 1 and volume 2, definitely worth picking up. Beatles at the BBC. Now, last but not least, this is an album that was released in 1977, and this is, in my opinion, the essential live Beatles experience. Now, this is the Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl, and of course, I'm sure a lot of you know that it was remixed by Giles Martin, I believe in, what year was this? 2016. It was remixed, and with a couple of bonus tracks as well. And it was released as Live at the Hollywood Bowl from the film 8 Days a Week, The Touring Years, which is a documentary done by Ron Howard. I don't quite understand why 8 Days a Week was included with this. It doesn't really have much to do with it, but it was the documentary they had on at the time, so they were tying it in, whatever. But I think both of these, and by the way, these are both identical, of course. These are the original recordings, and these are the remixed recordings with bonus tracks. But I think both of these are essential because while this one doesn't sound quite as good as, of course, the remix, I do think they're both worth owning and picking up, because it's cool to have the original one released in 1977. This is the one put together by George Martin and Jeff Emerick. And, you know, it's just fun to have the original one. And I like the original one's packaging a lot more than the new packaging. It has a cool gatefold. Lots of memorabilia from the Beatles 64, 65 tours. And the back is very cool as well. This one is also a gatefold. A lot of information in there, which is nice to have. And the back is just simple like that. But I think this is essential because, like I said, this is you're hearing pretty much a complete Beatles concert at the height of Beatlemania. Now, this is, of course, taken from three different shows from the Hollywood Bowl, one in 1964 and two from 1965. I believe I could be a little wrong with that, but generally speaking, 64 and 65. And the songs sound really, really great. The Beatles have a lot of energy, and it's just fun to hear these songs with all the screaming going on in the background. And generally speaking, I think when it comes to when I want to listen to this album, I do end up listening to the remix a lot more just because the fidelity is much better. But as I was saying, I do think both of these are worth picking up. And like I said, this one is, of course, in the shops right now. This is still a brand new album. They're still pressing. You can find this anywhere. This one might be a little bit harder to find, but again, I see this in record shops all the time, the original 1977 release. And you can find it online as well. Probably for under $20 is what I would say. But essential to have in your Beatles collection. So, these albums, Live at the Hollywood Bowl, Live at the BBC, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Live at the Star Club in Hamburg, 1962, the Decca Audition, or the Decca Tapes, and the Beatles with Tony Sheridan, the Tony Sheridan Sessions. These are all albums that I think you should have in your Beatles collection. Maybe these are albums that you've never even heard of before, some of these. Maybe you've heard of all these before, but now you have a little more information on some of them, and maybe you'll want to pick them up, or maybe you don't want to pick them up. But these are the ones that I think are important to add to your collection. Now, I would love to know in the comments below what you think about this video and some of the albums I've talked about. Maybe you have different opinions, and that's totally cool. Put them in the comments below. Maybe you have some suggestions that I didn't include in this list that I would love to hear about. So anyway, that's it for now. Now, I do need to address this. If you made it to this far in the video, good for you. But I do have a lot of people still asking me about my website. I used to have a website called needleneedsvinyl.com. It doesn't exist anymore. I stopped doing that. It was something I did for about a year or so. And I did enjoy doing it, and I do have videos up that are old videos where I'm talking about, go to my website, needleneedsvinyl.com. But that doesn't exist anymore, so but I get people constantly messaging me saying, your website is down, or where's your website, or when's the website coming back? So just to answer some of those questions very simply, it doesn't exist anymore. It's not coming back anytime soon. Yes, maybe in the future I might bring it back if I get into that again. But as of now, I have another job I'm currently working at, and I'm working on my music as well. And so that's where most of my time is devoted to these days. So that's a little update as far as needlemeetsvinyl.com. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll try to make some more videos. I did tell myself at the beginning of this year that I would like to make some more videos because I do enjoy making them, and hopefully I'll make some more. But I would love to know in the comments below if there are any videos in particular you would like me to make, any topics that you'd like me to talk about. I'd be happy to do it. It doesn't have to be Beatles, by the way. I'd love to talk about pretty much anything involving records. But yeah, that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well, and talk to you later. And hey, bye for now.